Today, our fellow citizens, our way of life, our very freedom came under attack in a series of deliberate and deadly terrorist acts.
On Tuesday, September the 11th.
An attack on America.
America under attack.
This is in the World Trade Center.
Attack on America.
The most tragic thing that has happened to America.
America under attack.
A terrorist act of war not seen in America since Pearl Harbor.
2 hijacked commercial U.S. jetliners were used to ram the Twin Towers of the World Trade Center.
Remains on alert.
Described as high alert.
Destruction and disbelief.
The president was told of the terrorism and cut short his visit.
Completely impossible to understand why this is happening.
Where I've never seen anything like it.
Was the story no one could prepare for.
What we've just seen is about the most shocking videotape I've ever seen.
It's like World War II.
American Airlines jet hit the tower.
The start of the workday in New York's financial district.
First airstrikes occurred shortly before.
Just before 9 a.m. Eastern, Americans awakened to shocking pictures from New York.
I just saw the entire top part of the World Trade Center explode.
A plane rips a gaping hole into one of New York's World Trade Center towers.
8:45 a.m. East Coast time. An airliner smashes into the North Tower of the World Trade Center.
Since the flights were all headed to the West Coast, they were carrying near maximum amounts of fuel.
At 8:45, a hijacked plane had slammed into one of the World Trade Center towers.
Got to be a terrorist attack. I can't tell you anything more than that. I saw the plane hit the building.
A catastrophe of unparalleled proportions. Hijacked jets destroy the World Trade Center.
A second airplane, a 727, just rammed into the building.
Before anyone can figure out the city is under a terrorist attack, it happens again on live television.
Know if there were many people in the building?
Oh, another one just hit. Something else just hit. A very large plane just flew directly over my building, and there's been another collision. Can you see it? I can see it on this shot.
A.m. A second jet slams into the South Tower.
You can see the people jumping out the window. They're jumping out the window right now.
Just minutes later, the second crash right into...
Oh, my God!
An unprecedented terrorist attack. People on the ground look on in horror as workers in the Trade Center towers fall, or maybe even jump to their deaths. A plane careening on a collision course into the second tower of the World Trade Center at 8:03.
Oh my God!
Minutes after the first plane crashed, the second plane hit the World Trade Center.
(8:48 a.m.) Mayhem in Manhattan.
We saw a plane coming very low, and everyone said, wow, that plane is very, very low. Come on, guys, keep moving.
I was walking to work, and all of a sudden, I see a jet crash into the first tower.
An American Airlines flight loaded with 92 people crashes head-on into the North Tower of the World Trade Center.
And then we heard the crash. We ran to the window.
Into the building. It went into the Trade Center.
We hit the Trade Center. We saw the shrapnel fall, and then we said, "Get out."
And minutes later.
Oh, there's another one. Another plane just hit. Right. Oh my God! Another plane has just hit.
I heard a roar, and I looked around thinking that it had to be a helicopter, and I looked up and I saw the second plane hit.
A second commercial plane, a United Airlines jet, also hijacked, carrying 65 people, plows into the South Tower.
First one we thought was an accident. When we heard there was a second one, we definitely thought it was terrorism.
On the ground, witnesses could not believe their eyes. 70 stories up with the building burning, reason gave way to desperation.
And another plane comes in and hits the other tower, and there was like a ball of flame so big I couldn't believe it. It actually, you felt it in your face.
Yeah, I love the...
Oh, man.
Oh, God, help us. Ya Allah. La ilaha illallah.
That is an engine, by the way, on the ground that you're looking at now that clearly came from one of the airplanes that hit one of the World Trade Centers.
I'm at City Hall now.
This is amateur video, most of this, that's been shot, and it's, again, just images that will be burnt into our minds for as long as we live.
So five people that I counted jumped off. They look like rag dolls, really.
Some 50,000 people work in this World Trade Center complex.
Suddenly, the second plane, United Airlines 175, hit the South Tower.
To billow from the wreckage of the towers. It is,
the smoke is billowing.
It makes you sick.
Fort Battle in Maryland in 1862, 22,000 dead. I hope to God we don't approach that number.
Airports throughout the country will be closed.
The FAA shuts down all aircraft takeoffs nationwide.
Minutes, the FAA shuts down every airport in the country. The first time this has ever happened.
They need to go home. All international flights into the U.S. were diverted to Canada. The FAA stopped every single commercial airplane flight for the first time ever.
Almost everywhere closed.
No airplanes will be leaving.
I think our security is going to be so tight tomorrow that you're not going to believe it.
Hundreds of people at airports all around the country crowded around TV sets, stunned.
It's unbelievable to me that people can crash planes in the World Trade Center and collapse on thousands of people.
For any evening from now on and consider ourselves to be completely safe. This is crazy.
9:40, all American airports have been closed, but there are still planes in the sky. And minutes later, one of them crashes into the Pentagon.
Several Army officers I talked to reported hearing a big explosion, seeing shards of metal.
9:45, an explosion at the Pentagon after another plane slams into the headquarters and the symbol of the U.S. military.
It was a method of attack that was to be repeated. Just about an hour after the first explosion in New York, the Pentagon, the hub of the U.S. military, was hit by a
40 minutes later, another terrorist strike. An American Airlines jet takes off from Dulles International in Washington, D.C., only to crash into the Pentagon.
9:38, American Airlines Flight 77 plowed into the Pentagon. The first hit in what authorities now believe was to be a double-barreled attack on Washington. Within minutes, at around 9:45, orders were given to evacuate the White House.
At the Pentagon when there was a jolting blast on the other side of the building.
They hit the Pentagon.
A large aircraft came down 395, which is a major highway. It clipped off the tops of many of the light poles on the way in, and it slammed into the building. 25 windows down along the Pentagon were destroyed. The building, the section of the building that was hit by the fuselage of the aircraft collapsed several minutes after the aircraft hit it. Markings all over. There was a huge area for medical triage that is quiet now. And now they are continuing to fight fires inside the building.
I think that the fact that they happened to hit an area that we had built so sturdily was a wonderful gift.
10 minutes later, Lewis says he was in a meeting on the first floor deep inside the building, in Corridor 4, between the B and C rings.
The next thing we heard behind us was an explosion.
And we heard this boom, the building shook, the ceiling tiles fell out of the ceiling, and we ran out, and there was just smoke. People were screaming, "Run, what is it, what is it?"
Let's roll! Get on the other side!
As firefighters rushed to put out the flames, America learned that the Pentagon had indeed taken a direct hit, not from a corporate jet, but from another hijacked plane, American Airlines Flight 77, en route from Washington's Dulles Airport to Los Angeles. 58 passengers and 6 crew members were aboard.
Everybody out! Back home, it was as if war had been declared.
Ordered that the full resources of the federal government go to help the victims and their families.
Washington, D.C., now in the crosshairs of terrorism. The military was ordered to its highest state of alert. And at the White House, the Secret Service received a credible threat of a terrorist act.
Gotta be off the grounds and inside.
The president wasn't in town, but Vice President Cheney was. He and key aides were whisked out of the West Wing and into a secure location. while other White House staffers were evacuated.
A state of emergency declared in Washington, D.C. Much of Washington is shut down. Federal buildings and the White House are evacuated.
It was originally intended to hit the White House.
According to military sources, the plane, which took off from Dulles Airport, first flew past the Pentagon, instead heading to the U.S. Capitol. The plane flew over it, then circled toward the White House. What's unclear, why the plane kept on going and crashed into the Pentagon.
At 10:48, police in western Pennsylvania confirmed that a fourth hijacked plane crashed a half hour earlier outside Pittsburgh.